One.
What's going on, everybody? We have another episode of the Real Estate Blueprint Podcast. I am your host, Austin, more than an agent, here with my amazing co-host, my Dominicano hermano, Jonathan Soto. John does real estate. What's up, champ? What's new?
Everything's great. I'm living. We're here with another episode with great knowledgeable person today.
Today's guest, if y'all ever noticed, this is literally the team right here on the Mortgage Inn, your agent. And today's guest, can't wait, this is going to be a fun episode, I can tell. Today's guest is probably one of the most knowledgeable individuals that I've seen in real estate, just off of her level of expertise, which is bar none, probably one of the top 3 talents I think I've ever seen like in the business when it comes down to her knowledge aspect of it. And today we're going to be running through why it is extremely important to be doing your due diligence during your real estate transactions. And we're not just talking about home inspections, we're not just talking about appraisals, but everything else that could go wrong in real estate can go wrong in real estate. And today's guest is going to share why you need to make sure that you are staying 3 steps ahead and making sure that you have all of your ducks in a row. Today's guest, Erika Baldino. Erika, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. How are you?
Blush. That's a great intro. Thank you.
It's all facts.
Thank you.
We're going to dive into this. All right. So from a basic understanding for everybody that's listening, just give us a rundown of exactly what you do and your responsibility in a real estate transaction.
Sure. So I'll go from the scope of New Jersey, right? Because I'm licensed nationally, and but let's focus on New Jersey transactions. So I have to do a full 60-year search on the property to make sure that there's no liens or judgments, and to make sure that there's no outstanding child support or roof contractor that wasn't paid. After I do all of that work, I give it to the seller attorney. If there's attorneys in the transaction and they're supposed to clear title, most of the time they don't. They rely on our expertise to clear it. The buyer will then pay for a title policy, and then we are in charge of the escrow work as well. So we take all the money in and we pay everybody, like you, or taxes or any other ancillary services. We make sure they're all paid at the closing.
What is the one common misconception that you feel, because for the title part, it isn't as quote unquote sexy
right.
part of the transaction.
Right.
So what in that particular case, what is kind of the common misconceptions when it comes down to just doing title work and everything like that?
So
I feel like people could skip over it, if they just didn't.
So first, I think in an industry, everybody's like, title's title. It doesn't matter who you go with. Title's title. It's all the same product. So that's something I fight all the time. Title is not title to me, obviously. It really depends on who's doing your search. People miss searches. They might not pick up child support or different liens. You might not have the service on the back end. So I think that's a misconception in the industry. Then I think from a consumer standpoint, they don't know what it is.
Right.
We don't market to the consumer. You know what I mean? My company doesn't own a stadium. We don't have TV commercials. We're not a Super Bowl commercial. Nobody knows what title is. So you'll have a misconception on cash buyers that it's not needed. I've had 3 or 4 cash buyers in my 12-year span career just waive title insurance completely. So they don't find value in it, unfortunately. And that's why we're on this podcast, to change that perception.
So you mentioned 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
What happens before the 60 years?
It's a good question. So industry standard in New Jersey for a buy-sell, refi is 30 years, but for buy-sell, it's a full 60-year search. And then we sort of indemnify anything before 60 years. If Austin's got a seller who's been there for 61 years, and we know that because the deed shows it's been 61 years, we would obviously go back farther.
Got it.
But with the way that we change houses in this state, every 7 years really is what industry average for people selling houses. So 60 years is enough.
That makes sense.
Now, how long have you been in the business?
12, 13 years, I feel like.
Okay.
How, though? I'm 21. I don't know how. It just goes by.
Well,
elementary school. Huh?
Yeah.
Elementary school. Now, what made you go into title insurance? What made you go into and what were you doing before that? I do not remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Do you remember?
No.
So
You were a full-blown Italian? I don't know. I'm just
full-blown Italian.
Phil-
That's what he said. So
Cut that piece out.
I was an environmental chemist for the state of New Jersey.
Yes, that's right.
So I did a bunch of like boring stuff. So I was on a boat every day, like basically catching fish and throwing them in grinders and looking at them for mercury on like machines that cost $500,000.
Interesting.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you said boat, I didn't know it was like catching fish. I thought you were just partying on boats.
Right.
No. That's
Like yachts and
that's
stuff.
Austin's job. My job.
So we were murdering the fish just to make sure that there was
we
no.
zapped them. We would electrocute the fish.
Okay.
And then we would scoop them up. We would throw them in a blender, basically. And then you would take this fish slaw and you would run it through like a mercury testing machine, like an ICP-MS or an MS, were like the industry tools I used. Yes.
Did New Jersey, like, was that like a major problem in New Jersey?
Let's do a science podcast.
By the shore.
Sure. So
By the
let's
shore,
let's
no?
segue into science. Science and real estate to me go hand in hand, which is kind of a weird thing. But yes, so I worked on the Hackensack River and Berries Creek. There was a very well-known thermometer factory in the 50s and 60s. And they would just throw out the mercury thermometers when they were done with them. So they were dumping all of this mercury in this area. Well, how does that translate to real estate? Because everybody that lived in that part of the creek got sick and their homes were super devalued. So it became very blighted, right? So you talk about gentrification and you talk about privilege. Well, you had a lot of people that couldn't afford to leave Berries Creek because of all of this contamination. So then they had, they formed what was then called the New Jersey Meadowlands Commission to clean up Berries Creek and to make sure that there was no more toxicity. Yes.
I didn't know that. I knew about the thermometer thing, but not specifically in that particular city.
Yes. I mean, it's so famous. If you talk to environmental chemists like in Alaska, they'll be like, oh, Jersey, Berries Creek, right? Like there's literature about it. It's because it was so, you know, he's
It's
going
made
to
national. Like this was like a national.
No. There's so
fact-checked
many
here, so let's
scientific.
see.
There's so many scientific papers on it. You know, there was a point in time that people would store their boats in Hackensack River instead of winterizing it because no barnacles would grow under it because there was nothing there.
Oh, wow.
And like, you know, we actually, when we would catch fish to test them, we would have to give pamphlets to people that were fishing there because people were fishing for their homes to survive, to eat. They're
And
fishing.
that's why they were getting sick.
Of course. Even now, today. Uh-oh, he's Googling. What'd you
No,
find?
you're spot on because back in 2018,
Catch and release.
we the EPA moved forward for $332 million cleanup of Berries Creek.
Yes, because
That's insane.
Because what happens?
Send me that link.
Send them a link. Okay, yeah. So what happens with mercury is that mercury is heavy. So once it's put into the water column, it sinks, and then it goes all the way into the soil, like the silt that's beneath the water. So there's two schools of thought. Do you dredge it? So do you basically go up there and do you scoop it all out, but then bring the mercury all the way to the surface again, or do you just let it sit and sort of continue to sink down? But I mean, we have mercury laden fish in that river that like if you would eat it, it would totally screw you up. And when you compare it to like a mercury free fish, you have no idea how the fish even survived. Like they're that messed up in there.
Is for some like a massive catastrophe, something like this, title can't do anything. Like, is there anything that can protect somebody? Like, if I bought a home and then 4 years later this whole entire situation happens, is that something that a title insurance policy would?
No, because the title insurance only protects the past and not the future. So I'm making sure that you have good title up into the date of closing. If your property becomes a Superfund site, like we had properties that we looked at that were in back of Teterboro Airport. It's a small private airport, but the problem was the houses were there before the airport, and now there's jet fumes, and it caused a ton of cancer in all these houses because they're breathing in jet fumes. We had the data to prove it, by the way, but we weren't allowed to publish it.
Publish now.
But like, there's nothing they can do except be the next Aaron Brockovich and do like a class action lawsuit. And then normally what happens is the state will step in or the federal government will step in and they'll buy your house out at fair market value. The problem is, what is fair market value?
Subjective.
Right? Subjective. And so, you might be able to get $700,000-$800,000 for that house. The state's willing to pay you $350,000. So, you know what I mean? And we've seen this in history. This isn't just a new thing. I mean, you look at the way bridges were built in Manhattan, and they were stealing properties left and right. Oh, we'll give you 50 grand. And these are properties now that are probably worth millions of dollars.
Easily.
So that's kind of how I nerd out. And that's my intersection of science and real estate.
Well, it makes sense because I mean, like, for the title part of it is almost like kind of an art and a science because there's so many things that can be missed over a transaction that I don't think like people realize. Like, there's so many things that can go wrong in real estate that like you can lose your shirt potentially, like God forbid. But
Tell us about a recent lost your shirt situation.
Yeah, so I always, every time I'm frustrated, I sort of vent on Instagram. So if you follow my stories and I'm in one of my moods, you'll get like 16 frames of me, you know,
just going off,
being upset about somebody. So what happened was there was a guy who was divorcing his wife, and I guess he was cheating on her. I don't know what he was doing, but he decided to buy a house with somebody else. Okay. So those two bought this house. At the time, he's obviously divorcing. She's unmarried. They buy this house for what looks like cash.
Okay.
During his divorce from the other chick, he doesn't tell his new chick that he needed to take out a specialized loan for divorces. So there are divorce lenders. You can't really get, I mean, I guess you could do a cash out mortgage, but he didn't want the chick to know. He wanted to go to a certain lender that was going to put what's called a UCC on the property, which is like a mortgage, but it does let everybody know that there's money owed. Yeah. So he didn't tell this chick, and he put $180,000 UCC on the property for his divorce with the other girl, the first chick. Well, evidently they got married. The new home buyers got married, and 3 years later they called it quits. So she hires an attorney to be like, I want him off the property. So the attorney, I guess, draws up some sort of agreement. He wanted $115,000 to leave. This chick, the new chick, pays him the $115,000. They put a deed on record. He leaves. He's gone. This attorney never did a title search. I go to pull title, and I have to tell her that he's got a $180,000 bill still on the property for his divorce. She had no idea about it. So now she paid him $115,000 to leave, and he's nowhere to be found. She's gonna have to pay another $180,000 to sell the property for his divorce that she wasn't even a part of.
That's insane.
It's like,
fellas, it never works out with the second chick. I'm telling you right now. But that's okay. Go.
Can she go back to the attorney?
Well, so that's the funniest part of the whole thing is that the attorney that prepared the deed for $115,000 that didn't do the title search, she has as her selling attorney. So when the seller attorney got the binder, she went, it should have been paid off at the time of the deed. And I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't. And when we called the divorce lender goes, I'm like, hey, we're calling for 123 Main Street. They're like, yup, we know him. We know the person. They knew the guy by name. All I said was an address. They were like, we want our money. We know that he's trying to run from us. So, you know, the attorney kind of didn't do the right thing.
So she gave him 115, or he has a lien against the property.
She already gave him 115 to say, get out of my
as a buyout.
How the heck she got that money?
They bought it cash. I have a feeling the property's worth $750,000.
Gotcha.
So I have a feeling most of this is her money in the property. He must have put down like 115, and she was like, you know what? I want you out here.
So here's my
not
buyout.
Knowing that there was anything left, not thinking they negotiated that price before anybody ran title. So now she gave this guy 115 and has to come up with 180 at closing extra because he's not going to answer his phone.
I wouldn't.
Of course.
In a joking manner, though. But that's how does a seller's attorney not know to run title? I mean,
And so this is the problem that I have. Because in our industry, it's always like, oh, do a deed for $1. Oh, quick claim deed. Oh, 100,000. So she probably thought she was just hired to do a $115,000 deed and didn't take the necessary precautions and now screwed this client for $180,000.
She probably told him, oh, there's no mortgage. Just do the quick claim deed.
But now is that attorney on the hook?
Of course she is. Technically, it's malpractice.
Now, how does she? I mean, what is she going to do about that? Is there any update on that?
So then it goes into litigation, right? And so,
I'm
not an attorney, but basically you can hire a law firm, but then is the juice worth the squeeze? So in this case, right, is this attorney's E&O going to pay 180 grand? I don't know, but I might pay an attorney 20 grand to go fight it and figure it out. Right. It's a substantial amount of money. But this means for the buyer's not going to, they're supposed to close in 10 days. This is not closing in 10 days.
She don't have enough equity just to pay
She
everyone?
does, but the principle is, would you pay it? Do you know what I mean? If you gave a girl $115,000 to leave, thinking that you had an equity in a house for $750, and all of a sudden they were like, "Hey, by the way, you have to pay another $180 grand for a divorce that wasn't even your divorce," would you pay it just to move on?
True.
I wouldn't. I would be pissed.
I got blessed, right? So like with my divorce, luckily it was I had the easiest divorce ever, logistically.
Right.
Emotionally, I will not.
Right.
But logistically, I had the easiest divorce as far as like just separation of assets, so on and so forth, and then going about our business. What other like? I mean, that's just one of the many stories that I'm pretty sure that you've known, but it gets sticky with. Another aspect is with marriages and just people that bought properties together, like in general, like or like it was just a business partner.
Just separation. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem with divorce, right, is that a divorce attorney doesn't practice real estate law and a real estate attorney doesn't practice divorce law. That's the problem. Like everybody thinks, oh, go to a lawyer. It's like going to a doctor. You wouldn't go to a heart surgeon for brain surgery. Right. So, and you don't know what you don't know. And I actually end up doing a lot of seminars for divorce attorneys. And they're like, Erika, why waste your time? Well, divorce attorneys are great because they always know somebody's selling. Right. But what happens is they will negotiate buyouts for the divorced couple without running title or talking to a mortgage person. Right. So what always ends up happening is, let's say, Bob and Sally, they go to get a divorce and it's like, okay, well, Bob's going to give Sally $100,000 to leave. Okay, but maybe Bob can't afford to do that refi without Sally's income, which is most of the time what happens. See, a divorce attorney should be calling a lender going, here's Bob. He makes $100,000 a year. He's got an $800 credit score. Can he carry this mortgage that's $600,000? If the answer is no, why did you just negotiate this buyout agreement? So what normally ends up happening in practice is that the guy goes, screw it. I'm not going to refi. Nobody's holding my foot to the fire. I'm just going to let it ride. Now Bob falls behind on his mortgage and there's a foreclosure action. That's going to be on the ex-wife's credit because she's still attached to the mortgage. Or the ex-wife now, 2 years from now, meets a new dude. They want to go buy something. She gets pre-approved with Soto, and Soto goes, you're carrying a $700,000 mortgage. There's no more room. She goes, what do you mean? I got divorced 2 years ago. So the problem is these divorce attorneys, then when they don't run judgments, sometimes I'll go to a refi. And the ex will be the ex. I had one, the ex went back to the Philippines like 7 years ago. Like he's not here. And there was like $10,000 worth of judgments that she had to pay at the closing table.
With your story, these guys are getting away with murder. My goodness.
I know. It's always the guys, man. The girls are so good. We don't ever do anything wrong. These guys leave.
Tell us a girl horror story.
A girl horror story. Okay, so I have one.
That was quick.
So let's talk about closings, right? So we kind of alluded to this prior. First of all, the contract closing date is never the closing date. Okay, let's just go over that. Don't take off. Don't hire movers. Don't get ready for it. Don't put it in your calendar. Right. Wait until your real estate agent and your attorney. Don't get internet. Don't buy furniture. Like
definitely do not buy furniture.
Especially in New Jersey.
On credit.
In Florida, it's totally different. If you don't close by the 9th, if it says the 9th, the contract's null and void.
I will say that.
In Jersey, we have time of the essence. Nobody cares. Soto needs, a couple more days, whatever. That's not the closing date. When it is finally time for the closing date, you have to take off. Like a lot of people incorrectly think that we could do this all virtually. And that's normally the most common question at the closing table is they look at the stack of paper, they sigh, and they go, why couldn't I just have done this online? And so my rebuttal to that is because of the high amount of fraud that's involved at the closing. Yep. People go, what do you mean? Well, how many times did you log, like, I don't want to know earmuffs, but how many times did you log into your partner's portal with the last 4 digits of their social security and click something? They roll their eyes. How many times did you call somebody up and be like, could you just quick do this? Right. So like, we all know what's happening in the industry. And so what happened at one of my closings is we had a guy get all the way to the closing table. We thought it was a husband and wife. It was actually his side piece. And he basically stole his wife's credit. So,
I'm talking about the girls. The girls.
Well, okay, fine, but
I'm just
she's
playing.
complicit. She's complicit.
The-
The
yeah, okay, I
side
got
piece
you.
is complicit.
Oh, yes, yes,
So the
yes.
side piece
too.
was the wife, and she signed for her.
Correct.
Oh.
So, yes.
So now the wife got hit with the bill, the tax bill.
Well, I didn't let the closing happen, luckily,
good.
because I didn't have some moron with a notary
Title
stamp.
queen.
Yes, but what happened was,
Diabolical.
so...
And everybody was mad at you. You should let them close. I want my money.
Well, of course, the real estate agent. So do we still have a closing? Do I get my check? No, idiot. That wasn't the real wife. That was the side piece. Basically, what happened was the wife made a ton of money. The side piece did not. So
It's usually how it happens.
of course, although the side piece was very pretty. And
It's usually how it
normally
happens.
how it happens. So the husband went to go buy this penthouse wherever it was, and he couldn't afford it. He made money, but he couldn't afford it solely on his income. But he obviously knew his wife's last 4 digits of social and everything and everything and everything. And so I know when my company did my own VOE, my company called me and was like, "Hey, Erika, just making sure that you're buying a house because a lender's on the phone and we have to make sure that this VOE, this verification of income, is legit." Not everybody does that. So when they did her VOE, they were all like, "Oh yeah, Mary works here. Yeah, she works. She makes 300,000. Yeah." Da-da. So they got all the way to Doc Strawn to the closing table. They used this woman's ID. They used everything. He made up a fake email address for her so that he was corresponding on the portal. She had no idea her credit was pulled, like nothing, until we. Of course, it's wild. It's identity theft.
He went to jail.
No. He would have went to jail if this was fully remote and somehow they got a remote notary to do the closing package.
Even the
because-
attempt and going through the whole process,
Well,
he still won't get jail time.
No, because what happened was...
Because technically there's no...
Well, what happened was I sat down at the closing table and a good notary... A notary should, "Can I have your IDs?" And she froze. And she looked at him. And she was like, "I left mine in the car. I hope it won't be a problem." I go, no, it's a problem.
It's a problem.
I'm like, "I need your ID." She's like, "Could you just take a picture?" I'm like, no, I need your actual ID. Like, let's go. So she goes, "Hon, it's in the car. Can you come down with me? I don't know where it is, where I put it." And they left. They just drove away. Like the jig was up. So we couldn't call the cops. We were waiting there for like 20 minutes. And that's when the agent was like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "I could tell you what's happening. That's not his wife. Like, that's fraud."
Jeez.
So like that's why when people are like, "Just make it remote. This is so stupid. I can't believe I have to take off work." Forget all the knowledge that I drop at a closing table. Just for fraud purposes, I like
She
being
was
able to see
under
humans.
contract.
Right.
No,
That's
closing,
wild.
Everything.
Doc
Closing.
Strawn.
Everything.
We checked credit. Like they were ready to go. Everybody thought that was Mary, and it
Monitor
was
your
really
credits.
Patty.
She never saw that someone ran her credit too.
Yeah, but how many of us really have alerts on our credit to let us know that credit was pulled?
I do.
Especially,
I do.
I don't. Maybe I should. Maybe I'm the odd man out. She didn't.
Maybe you got
That's
2 mortgages on your name and you didn't even know.
Yeah, I could.
From the ex-boyfriend.
Could be. Yeah, probably.
That's wild.
Do you see this also kind of happen with like business partners? Like, just no romantic relations or anything like that, just strictly business partners. Do you see like these types of things happen as well?
I mean, listen, I just got a phone call last week from a guy. He wasn't a business partner, but he took a HELOC, $300,000 out of his house last year and gave it to some guy that he thought was a financial planner, and he didn't look at broker check. And for a couple months, he was getting a return on his investment, but now the guy's gone. So like, and this is a very savvy family that I've done, I don't know, has to be over $20 million worth of real estate for, like, in my career. This isn't even like they preyed on little Grammy. This is like an investor that knows this, that was like, "Yeah, this sounds like a good idea." Took the $300,000 out. It's gone. So, you talk about fraud, but also best practices. Like, I wouldn't use some idiot that came to me and was like, "Hey, I would do broker check. I would ask around." Like, there's precautions in place, but I guess it's just so fast and easy that nobody cares. Nobody looks.
Have you seen any like instances with like wire fraud or anything like when somebody's trying to wash money in real estate, which like to your point, like because it's such a high potential for fraud, a lot of people might be
Yes.
washing money in some of these.
So we could talk about, I guess, the new ruling that came out from the federal government, which is going to slow cash transactions down. So we now have a responsibility to report all wires to FinCEN, which is the federal government. So prior to this ruling, you could send me money from China and I couldn't care about it. Like I never cared about where the money was coming from or where the money was going. It was just a function of real estate. And that's how a lot of politicians are able to wash money. That's how a lot of mafia is allowed to wash money, because they could buy a $20 million cash penthouse in Manhattan and the money's coming from Russia. And title had no responsibility to report.
Right.
Now there's a responsibility to report. Now when you buy a cash transaction or even a sizable down payment, you have to now report, this is Austin Smith, this is his ID, this is his date of birth, and you have to basically let the federal government know that you're wiring me $200,000 from whatever bank account. And the same on the proceeds. The proceeds is going to Soto, this is his bank account, it's not in China, it's not in Russia. And if it is a foreign bank account, then they have a whole extra set of procedures they have to go through. So they are cracking this. They started to crack down commercially in certain pockets where this was a big deal, but now it's going to be across the board residentially. So no more 2-day cash closings. It's going to be like a week and a half, because they're going to need it to go through this FinCEN.
Is that going to increase title fees?
No, because we never raise our prices, but it's just going to be more hard work on us. We're going to have to remember to report it and know how to navigate that.
That's a good question. Like, so how much, obviously this is part of the process where people are spending money for fees and due diligence and things like that. What does a title insurance policy cost? Or like, what's the breakdown? Is there differences between small 1 to 4 units and some of the big buildings and deals that I've seen you do? Like, is there a difference in the fee structure, or how does that work?
So in New Jersey, we are a rate filed state, which means that the premium cannot change. So we've got a premium chart that we follow for lenders and owners policy.
Okay.
So, but there are actually some states that I can rate compete that are not rate filed, where I could be like, yeah, I'll do your title for $20. I mean, literally, it's a race to the bottom in those states. Where I do discount is for nonprofits. So we are legally allowed to discount for nonprofits. Nobody tells you that because it comes out of my commission. But I give 25% off for like houses of worship, schools, synagogues, charities that are buying real estate. But basically, for a standard transaction, the premium is the premium. And then there's ancillary charges. There's a fee to do the 60-year search. There's a fee to go have one of my attorneys look it over. There's a fee to see if you're in a flood zone. Then there's a fee for us to act as escrow agent. They are all supposed to be state regulated, but there are a lot of bad actors, one of which just got in trouble 3 weeks ago. This is the second time this firm is in trouble for marking up the invoices. Because the issue is that the consumer doesn't know what they're looking at.
Right.
So if there's a $200 courier fee on the invoice, they shrug their shoulders and they're like, okay, I guess that's what title costs. Do we need to pay a courier $200 to drop docs off at a closing? No, I come with the docs myself. Like, it's just a BS fee, unfortunately. So there are a lot of title companies, and that's why I say not all title companies are created equal, because there's a lot of people that just make fees up and then collect on it.
And give us all the examples how someone can hold title. Like, what are the different title options?
Sure. So husband and wife, right? It's automatic tenants by the entirety. So in the state of New Jersey, what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. You hold title together, and God forbid one passes away, the other person gets it completely. When it's non-married people, we call that joint tenants with rights of survivorship. So same concept, but if we put that at the end of title, that means that if I go, you two inherit the property. Then if you pass away, Austin gets it solely. Then there's tenants in common, or TIC deals, which we talk about in 1031 exchanges or as you get farther into investing. And a TIC deal would mean if I pass away first, my third goes to my estate or my next of kin. Then if you pass away, now your third is your estate, my third is my estate, and you still own it. And so there's no sort of entirety there. And that's a very important distinction, because when you get into 1031 exchanges, if you're not owning title as a TIC, you have one LLC, the whole LLC needs to move forward. And you may have a partner with a dissolution of partnership that's like, I'm out. I don't want a 1031 with you. I don't want to buy another building. Then you got to buy them out of the LLC, which can be a pain in the butt.
What do you for the deals with investors that you're seeing like in New Jersey? What's kind of the state of investor confidence like throughout New Jersey, essentially?
So I guess it depends on the asset class, right? So for the higher level multifamily guys, it's a race to the bottom with multifamily right now. It used to be you would buy the piece of land, you'd put up a 60 unit building, it was new and sparkly, and for the next 5 or 6 years you were the new kid on the block. And now it's like 6 months later there's another building across the street with a better amenity, and now a year later your building is old and you have to sell it. I mean, we're just building multifamily in the state so fast that it's hard to keep your asset relevant, basically. So there's pain point in that.
Why do you think we're building so much?
We have the demand. It's all supply and demand. And what's crazy is that like people are paying the $3,000 2-bedroom apartment in Patterson. People are paying that. They're okay with the $3,500 townhouse in Newark. Whereas I thought we were going to sort of see a shrinkage and people pull back and be like, I can't afford that. So even in an economy where we're saying it's rough, we can't make ends meet, people are coming up with sizable rent. And so these big guys are taking advantage of that. Sad to say.
Do you think that's going to continue, or is there going to be like a kind of a little mini bubble essentially in that particular
because I could have sworn a lot of those buildings have lower occupancy rates.
So, I mean, my building that I live in is completely sold out all the time. Like every time an apartment comes up, it's sold in a month. So, and I'm in Springfield, which is like, I would say it's not sense. High class, but it's not, low. It's like it's a good moderate indicator. Listen, I subscribe to the fact that I think real estate is cyclical, and I think it goes up and down, and I think a cycle lasts 10 years. And I think the last time we hit bottom was 2016. And the only reason we haven't hit it again is because I think COVID and some policies like inflated us. So will rents decrease? Yeah, I think that they will. I don't know when. But you're already seeing the pullback in places like Florida, places like Texas, where people kind of flew to during COVID. We kind of think we talked about it before, but it's like the Great Migration, like California and New Jersey, New York just kind of went like this, like in the United States. And now they're kind of like, Texas kind of sucks, and Florida's got hurricanes, and maybe we'll go back, and we got to go, work from home's not really... I mean, I know my team's back 5 days a week. So, like, work from home is kind of wishy-washy. And so they're leaving. So you're seeing
I saw a lot of companies that they're forcing to go back 5 days a week. And people are scrambling. So I forgot what company. I think it was, And
either Amazon or Apple. One of those. But, like, everybody's starting to or be forced to go back into the office, which a lot of people are not happy about. Another thing with the bigger multifamilies, I think I was talking to a colleague on, and... interest rates for like there's going to be like a lot of supply that's coming because of everyone that got like the
7-year IOs,
the arms,
interest only,
all the arms for the very large multifamilies, and then those are kind of coming due.
Yes.
But then they also can't really sell it at top dollar because the interest rates are higher than what they were before, which is a detriment. But it would be interesting to see if a lot of like those very, very, very large apartment complexes, start to flood the market.
Well, the problem was they leveraged out so much equity when interest rates were basement pricing, 4 or 5%. 3% residentially, but commercial we were seeing 4 or 5%.
It's amazing. Jeez.
I know, but we think it's high, but it's like it was free money for these guys, so they leveraged it. But the problem is now that interest rates are 7, 8, 9, 10% commercially. Now it's not debt servicing.
Right.
And so these guys are either having to bring money to the table, which is not the phone call you want. Hey, could you bring $20 million to the closing table in order to get this refi? But their loan is ballooning.
Right.
So it's either you bring $20 million to the closing table and get yourself back on track, or you suffer a huge balloon payment.
Yep.
So, yes, especially in Manhattan, we will see it start to flood the market. It already has. Foreclosures of these buildings. We will see.
It's so interesting. It'll be very interesting to see.
Do you think that would trickle to the residential side? Like some way, have some type of impact?
I mean, it's my opinion that the residential side is going to be impacted similarly, but because they leveraged their equity, and now they're behind on credit card payments. So the problem is we in my opinion, we don't have a way to save people right now like we did in the last recession, because everybody's mortgage is at 3% and everybody leveraged their property to the hilt. So the minute, God forbid, they get laid off, the minute there's a bump, the minute there's a credit card that's past due, what we did in 2016 where we were like, wow, you took out a shit loan that was like a balloon payment and this, and it's at 7%. Let me just refi you to 4%, 30-year fixed. And all of a sudden we were saving people $1,000 a month, $500 a month. That's life-saving.
Right.
And in some cases, we were refining them to pay off all of this crap. But now we can't, because we're going to touch the 3% mortgage they put on 4 years ago to give them a 7% mortgage. That's only another 4 years long. Like, the money's not there. So I'm very worried for your normal middle-class family that, God forbid, there's a layoff. You've got AI coming in. You've got technology coming in. The job sector is moving. So I'm worried about that. I don't know how that's going to relate to the commercial side being foreclosed on, but I'm just worried about these guys that are just need a safety net, and we can't prescribe it. The only sort of tool in the toolbox that the federal government came up with a couple years ago was the 40-year fixed. Have you seen that program?
For
Talk
FHA,
about wild.
I believe, right?
I think it's
for
FHA.
loan modification only. You can't
it's a loan
purchase.
mod. You can't purchase with it, right?
But what are you doing with a 40-year fixed? You're 40 years old. You got behind on it. What are you going to take a 40-year fixed out till you're 80? Who's going to work to pay that? I mean, it's kind of insane.
Well, like you said, people don't stay. People
No, you don't stay.
sell.
You hope to sell it. But
Yeah.
it's the only Band-Aid. And then next it'll be a 50-year. And we'll be at a 100-year. And who knows? Who cares?
Listen, as an investor for small multifamily, I like the 100-year. Keep that monthly payment as low as possible.
Yeah, $5 a month.
At that point, yeah. No, yeah, sign me up.
At that point, when you sell, you don't have the equity. Your loan amount probably go higher because
Yeah. Yeah.
You said the
negative amortization.
You said real estate, that you believe real estate is cyclical every 10 years or so. And then you mentioned at the bottom back in 2016. Which bottom are you referring to in 2016?
So 2016 was right when we started to see numbers go down, and then 2018 was like the crisis. So if you look at the indicators of like, if you follow all the data, you'll start to see that everything was shaky. Have you watched The Big Short?
Yeah.
Okay. Those guys in The Big Short paid attention to the data in 2016, 2017, and they were the naysayers that are like, guys, it's coming. Guys, it's coming.
Are you talking 2016, 2017 or 06, 07?
I'm sorry, 06, 07.
That's the
I'm
only
sorry,
place.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right. So you're talking about the regular bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
thank you
All
for
right, cool.
clarifying.
No
Yeah.
problem at all. And I was like, what
It seems
bottom
so
did
far away, by the way.
listen. I was like, what bottom did I not participate in?
Yeah,
freaking 8 years ago. I missed it. I missed it again.
Yeah,
like,
no.
okay.
Was it something different? I'm
Yeah.
like,
Okay. All right. So, okay. Got you. So, all right. So
that was a good movie too.
that
It
leads
was a good movie.
It's
I think we're back to it, though. I mean, I feel like we're back to it. But
with what
What
products
would be
though?
the indicator? Yeah, because then was just
The BS loans.
the ninja loans.
So, so there's this one scene in The Big Short where the stripper is like
She had like 3
stripping,
houses?
and she has like 3 houses, and she's talking about real estate, and that's where I feel like we're at. I feel like everybody talks about real estate and investing.
Oh,
I feel like you'll go
it's
to the
been
grocery
like that.
store and somebody would be, oh, you're in real estate, and they're checking you out, and they're like, oh, I just invested in blah 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 blah, and so I feel like so many people are in the market and had easy access to real estate right now that like that stripper analogy may be sort of an indicator. I don't know. That's
why there's a bunch of real estate agents swarmed to the market, mortgage lenders.
yeah.
A bunch of them quit already.
I think it was Roosevelt.
Yeah.
I don't remember what president said it, but they said the same thing in stocks, that when the shoe shine guy was trying to get stock advice from you, he knew to cash out. And he sold his whole portfolio because he realized it wasn't the entire market was getting involved, which was bad. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
But with real estate's like one of those asset classes. Like it's hard for me to see where this next crash or next like adjustment or anything like would come from, unless it's just something that involves with major job loss.
AI.
Yeah, but AI. I mean, what are we gonna do if we really? I mean, look at the screenwriters and the copywriters, and a lot of people in cinema, a lot of people in CGI. They're scared AI is going to take their jobs. I mean, they were on strike for a year.
That's why those short people?
The shoresman strike?
The longshoresmen.
They want them to not let AI take their take the job. Didn't they do a contract or something like that?
Yeah.
That was a strike for
people are worried.
They wanted a 60% increase and prevent AI from taking their jobs.
Listen,
like in a certain in a time frame.
Let me tell you something. My personal contract for one of my investments, I threw some stuff in AI and I had it spit out contract language. I didn't pay an attorney. I mean, frankly speaking. So like, AI is sort of infiltrating everything, and we could see job loss from it because we need to figure out what are the next jobs that AI can create. Right? Like nobody had heard of cybersecurity before the .com boom. Nobody knew it was a job. Now we know it as a job that was from internet. So internet didn't take the job, but we created a new job. What is the AI job that will be created? Is it an AI user or somebody that knows how to use AI and plug in the information? Like we don't know those jobs yet. There's people whose job it is right now to come up with AI jobs to kind of figure out how the economy will move forward.
If say that does happen, we see like massive job loss and things like that. With the equity positions, like people would just sell. I mean, yeah, that would.
Who would buy?
But who would buy? And do we have equity positions if
if
we just refinance the whole world? I mean, we just refinanced the whole world, and in some cases, we had lenders giving 95 LTV. I mean, seriously. Now we're back down to 80, 70. But at one point, we were doing 95 LTV. And if those appraisals drop even a little bit because of job loss and low demand, you're screwed. You're back to everyone needs to sell their house and there's no buyers.
So the over leveraging piece of it, I definitely see, because I remember I was doing I think a HELOC or a cash out refi. I was doing a cash out refi on one of my properties, and I think I spoke to you about it because the appraisal came back in extremely high.
You called me on this. I'm like, are you mad?
Yeah, so right. Like it was what did you say?
They want to give me more money.
Yes, you know why? Okay, I wasn't mad, but it was very concerning because I would like to believe that like I knew where the value was, and even if it came in a little bit, I would have been like, okay.
Especially somebody in real estate in the game, you should know what your property is.
It came in way over, and although I would be happy about that, in theory, on paper, I still chose to only take out a certain amount. But I know when we were talking about, I think we were talking about that deal, that I was like, I can see somebody getting that number and just like, F it. Max out, take the whole entire thing out.
That was everybody.
And then for whatever reason,
very
like
few
that,
people
I can see.
self-regulated like you did. Very few people throttled back and was like, oh, you want to give me 400? I'll take 3. I don't need the whole 4.
Right.
Everybody took the max amount.
4.
Now, my whole thing is I don't judge you for that because it's what you do with the money. If you took the 400 grand and you blew it on a private jet and strippers,
right.
Well, then you sort of get what you deserve. Right. But if you took the $400,000 and you figured out how to double, triple, quadruple your investment,
right.
And then you could pay off that mortgage tomorrow, well, then you took a calculated risk. It paid off for you.
Yeah.
So
I can definitely see that being, and somebody, for people without the proper knowledge, I can definitely see people just over leverage and taking out too much, and then God forbid if something happens, either they can't refinance out, they can't sell out, or it's even worse if like for multis, if you can have a 4 unit and then one tenant's not paying,
right?
You can't move them quickly, nobody wants to buy, you can't refi, you can't sell, like you're stuck. You know what I mean? Like it can get really, really, really dangerous. When? Because at this point, I mean, you've been in the business, you said 12 years. I mean, ever since I got into the business, about a decade, about 10 years, it's just been nothing but up. And
it goes up.
Must come down, but when?
I don't know.
It was supposed to, when? Well, I will say this.
10 years passed.
It was supposed 10 years has
We're getting
passed.
Close to 20.
Yes, I know we are. And again, I think it has to do with COVID. I think it has to do with artificial
COVID
stuff that was put
supposed to be the next crash.
No,
you don't think so?
No,
COVID?
Dude,
You don't think COVID was supposed to be the next crash?
The government pivoted and put so many different things in place, like the mortgage freeze and everything else, to sort of keep the economy up. They gave out free money.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, wasn't
it back for that with a bunch of inflation and everything else?
Of course we are. And those HUD seconds, the second lien payoffs. I just had a friend of mine try to refi, and she's like, Erika, pull title. She had $100,000 lien as a second that she didn't know about because she didn't pay her mortgage for 2 years.
Oh, for the yes, okay, yes.
But what the consumer saw was it's cool, don't pay your mortgage.
Right.
That's the way the news.
Right.
That's what the news said. It's COVID. You're good. You can collect your stimulus money. You can go on a spending spree, buy a new television. Don't pay your mortgage. Everything's fine. And that's what a majority of the consumers did. And now they realize they're spending and their debt. They want to refi. They want to consolidate. And she's like, "What's this $100,000? I didn't know I had that."
I didn't pay for.
She's like, "I just thought that my payoff would be bigger." Everybody thought they just put it on the back of the loan. If they had a 30-year fixed, well, now it was 31 years because they went a year without paying. They just thought it was like a blip in time.
Right.
Nobody altered your mortgage or your note. It wasn't like you did a modification. Right. They were like, "Sure, stop paying," and then they put a second loan on you.
Mm-hmm. That and I guess so. Like, and when I said COVID was supposed to be the next crash, if the government didn't step in, intervene, it was supposed. Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
so yes, it was definitely supposed to be. Yeah. We had every single fundamental aspect of what would cause an economy to regress.
Yes.
And for whatever not for whatever reason, but we know that they did not want to have another 2008 and lower the interest rates like crazy, jump like prices popped up, so on and so forth. It's kicking the can further down the road. When did the chickens come home to roost?
I don't know, because every time I make a judgment call, because my judgment call was right before COVID was when I thought we were going to see it, the feds step in with something wild. I can't predict what tool in the toolbox they're going to pull out. I would have never predicted a 40-year fixed. I didn't, you know what I mean? So like, as much as I try to be like Nostradamus with my crystal ball, I don't know, man. The government has the authority to just keep doing crazy stuff more than we've ever seen. Like,
but if they keep intervening and pushing it back, are we going to have a
massive just
right? So the question is, it's not if, it's when. So when it happens, do we fall off a cliff and explode, or is it a soft landing? I don't know. Depends
on how much they intervene.
But New Jersey, I just see us as so densely populated that I don't know where everything will happen. But I mean,
Florida's already has corrections.
Huge, and they got a lot of land
down there with all the hurricanes and all the supply. And
I think they dropped like 30% or something like that. Some of the homes.
Florida's screwed. Okay, Florida is totally screwed.
Realistically, yeah.
But it's their homeowners insurance that's screwed.
Oh, it's gonna go up even more now.
There's people paying $12,000 a year for homeowners insurance.
Taxes.
Okay, we might pay taxes here, but they're paying homeowners insurance. Yeah. And like, as much as I want to say we have control of our own destiny when it comes to taxes, because you can vote for different legislation and try to correct that. You can't vote for if your homeowner's insurance wants to charge you $20,000 instead of 12.
Yeah.
I mean, there are massive people pulling out of insuring Florida, and they were just starting to get back in, and then freaking Milton hit, and now they're like, nah, never mind. Because think about how much money they have to go in to rebuild these houses. Massive, millions and millions of dollars to rebuild these houses. So Florida's screwed, even though we saw a lot of people leaving the city for Florida. I think they're starting to come back. South Carolina, totally.
I was thinking of going Florida. I'm like, these hurricanes happen too often.
They're wild. The amount of times, like, I don't even want to be like stressed out about like.
I heard on the radio today, there was some dude, his house is completely cinder block. Okay, it's a cinder block house. Now, he's upset that his stuff got ruined in the house. So what he's going to do is he's buying teak furniture, because teak can get wet and it dries. And he's putting down whatever type of floor it is so that next time this happens, all of his stuff will be safe, and he's just going to wash out his house. Like, his house is basically going to be one big bubble that he could just wash down after the next hurricane, so he doesn't worry about any family belongings.
Instead of moving, he rather...
Is that how you want to live, by the
way? Right.
Like, not me.
The another topic I love talking to you about, and then I want to go back. I want to go into your new business ventures. I'm still, I get teased about it all the time, but I'm still a fan of going to Atlantic City.
Right? Oh, yeah.
I'm still a fan of going to Atlantic City. Now, us as New Jerseyans, we can always see the next areas that are kind of up and coming. We can, we have our investor hats on, and then we're able to see like, hey, this city is appreciating rather quickly, so on and so forth. And I feel like the last few major cities that have not gotten there yet, Trenton, Camden, Atlantic City. I'll leave it at that. As far as like
Trenton's coming up a little bit.
Trenton?
appreciate.
I disagree.
Trenton?
I disagree on all of it.
Why?
Listen, I've been pro Atlantic City for the last 15 years.
That's my question. So why has it not, like, it's been...
But I also disagree that it's not come up. So you've got Richard Stockton University that just completed a huge redo of their school there. It's absolutely gorgeous. They're putting apartments in Bader Field. That's all brand new construction, right? You've got Progress. You've got the Orange Loop, which is Tennessee Avenue. It's called the Orange Loop because Tennessee Avenue is orange on the Monopoly board. And the Monopoly board is named after Atlantic City. It's all, so they call that the Orange Loop. You've got gastropubs going in, you've got art, you've got culture. The only thing that's hard about Atlantic City is that, again, it's just the gentrification. It's, well, aside from corruption, because the guys that run Atlantic City,
each mayor, like the past 2 mayors have gotten caught with corruption.
Yeah. At one point they had a law firm in West Orange running their finances. It's very, very bad. But aside from all of that, the city had the privilege of running their own city taken away from them, and a law firm had to step in because there was so much corruption. You know, they've got the water park, which was a huge addition to Atlantic City, and I think it will. I mean, I think it's only going to go up from there because all of a sudden Atlantic City sort of realized, and they realized it too late in the game, but it's no longer Vegas. It's no longer this place for full-on debauchery because I can bet from my phone right now. Like I want to put a bet on the game. You know, I could do it from my phone. So they had to pivot from just gambling. So let's get families involved because people will spend money on children. So now all of a sudden you could bring 3 generations there. You get a nice hotel room. You know, grandma and grandpa can stay with the kid. You know, you and your honey can go see a show. You go out to eat. There's a ton of fine dining there. There's great restaurants in Atlantic City. So like, I think Atlantic City is still on the come up. But again, it's gentrification. You have people that can't afford to leave Atlantic City. And it's in blighted areas. Where do they go? They go into Little Egg Harbor. I mean, but like, you've got a lot of homelessness. You've got a lot of bums. You've got people literally living in the old Trump Plaza. I mean, they had to demolish it 3 years ago because it was just a homeless factory of people. Like,
I didn't know that. I didn't know
so, you know,
because that's why I was pro Atlantic City, and it just never seemed like it just went anywhere.
No, there's people making money in Atlantic City. Because what they're doing is they are buying fully furnished houses that they will rent for summer rentals to all these families coming to the water park, and then they will flip them into sorority and fraternity houses for Stockton for the school year. So they're able to sustain a full 12-month rental. And they'll command a lot of rent because everybody knows that if you can get a couple university rentals, you're golden. There's people that make a ton of money doing university rentals if you're lucky enough to find a university that'll allow you to do that. Because the universities have caught wise. You know, my saying is universities are real estate holding groups first and educational facilities second.
I'm not surprised.
Right. So what they like to do is they like to hold real estate. Look at Columbia, look at Princeton. I mean, these are multi-bazillion-dollar places, right? So what was happening was you used to be able to live wherever you wanted. They would maybe make you live on campus the first year, but then the next couple of years they'd be like, okay, screw it, go live wherever you want. And landlords would catch wise and they'd realize, what did I pay for room and board in college? $15,000 a year? I mean, to only use it for 9 months, and it wasn't even my own room. It was half a room, and there wasn't even a kitchen. I mean, think about what we paid for room and board. Like, so there were landlords that were like, "Yo, I could rent every room for $1,000 a month,
and still be cheaper.
$5,000-$6,000 a month," and these people are gladly paying it. These schools call it wise, and now you either have to be on a list, your property has to be on a school approved list, or they won't let you live off campus at all until the last year. Because for security
purposes.
For security purposes, quote, unquote. They want the rent roll. They want that rent roll. I know it sounds wild, but
no,
they are, man.
It's ridiculous how much, and I went to Montclair State, right? So like, and what I've seen, like what tuition costs now is ridiculous. Yeah,
but look at the breakdown between tuition and room and board.
And
sometimes it's 50-50. Like I think FDU was $40,000 and it was like 24 something for the education, but then it was like whatever it was, 16, 17 for room and board. What? I'm paying half of that's going to room and board, and I'm not, like I said, I'm in a dorm room with another bed next to me and no kitchen and a bathroom, like in a building that was 40 years old. Like I wouldn't pay that now. I wouldn't pay rent. Would you pay, 16, 17 grand a year. It's not even a year. You're living there 9 months.
I don't even think like the college students are even paying attention to like the they're kind of just getting their loans and just like, you know, kind of just setting up shop. And I don't even think they're really.
They're just saying, yes, I want to go to this school.
I want to go to the school.
Whatever
this
it
is
is.
what it costs. It's a shame. Real estate holding company first. That's funny.
Why don't we regulate that?
Huh?
How do you regulate it?
Yeah.
Can't really regulate it.
Yeah.
The problem is, and this will go into politics and like, you know, all this stuff about student loans, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that the real regulation would step in where the federal government stops lending students the money to be able to afford this. Yeah. The problem was when I went to school and it was 40 grand a year, the feds gave me the 40 grand a year. No income, no assets, no credit score. Think about the loan sharking they did
it's
on a 14% variable interest rate. Okay, that was what my loans were. They were $1,000 a month when I graduated. But again, no income, no asset, no credit, right? And so if the feds would just stop giving us the money, then people would balk at these universities and be like, we can't afford it. And they'd have to come down.
It's my, you know, I've always thought about like, was my degree worth it? Like when it came down to like what I'm doing now and like nothing's kind of related. Well, I went to school for finance, was kind of real estate related, but I've always wondered if, you know, my degree was being put to work and all that other stuff. But I will say like the people that I met was like the biggest thing that I gained from college. And it's weird, like would you have spent, how much was mine? I think it was about 40, yours was 40 grand a year?
Yeah. But I had a scholarship. I had 2 years of free ride, I think. 2 years? Yeah. So I had 80. And then I had scholarship, you know, poor people scholarship, whatever. So I think at the end,
financial aid.
Yeah, and then at the end, I think I paid like 40 grand, but we don't understand money in college, so it amortized to 60 as soon as I graduated. So I was left with 60 grand in the hole.
Is it?
Okay, I didn't get that much.
No, I got blessed. I only was left with maybe like 28 or 30 grand or so. Like I got extremely lucky.
My student loan payment was more than my rent when I graduated. So I rented a room in Belleville for $600 a month, and my student loan payment was $1,100 a month.
Yeah, we're killing fish.
And that was it, by the way. That's all the money I had.
Did you live on campus all 4 years?
Yes, I did.
4 or 5 years, whatever.
Yeah, all 4 years. Yes, I did.
So, okay, so you know what? That's an interesting point. Like, well, I was thinking about it, and I've come to realize that the reason why, so I partied hard in college, and then I got kicked out of housing. And, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Well, there was these people that they brought, like, and obviously Montclair at that point was a dry campus, but I had a party, and then somebody had brought, y'all know who y'all are, but y'all know exactly who y'all are, if y'all are listening to this podcast, but...
we'll clip this and put it on social media to make sure they see it.
Long story short, like somebody had brought alcohol, and like they had a big like no alcohol like kind of policy. But you know, long story short, so I wanted to get kicked out of housing, and it was like my third strike or whatever the case. But I forgot what I did before. Yeah, but so I finally got kicked out of housing, and while it was like holy crap, my parents didn't know that either. But now they know now. But in that case,
Mom, Dad, don't watch this podcast.
Listen, your son, more than an agent. So the interesting part about it is that it's a blessing and a curse, because although that happened to me, I saved so much money by no longer living on campus.
Again, because they're a real estate holding company first.
It's ridiculous,
and they are education second, which is sad.
I had a couple people that couldn't get pre-approved because their student loan payments were out the wazoo. And it's like you can't even get ahead with some of these. Mine is like cheap, but like some people have a hard time.
And you know, we talk about student loan forgiveness, and like that's unfortunately in my mind that's not the answer, because the cycle is still persists.
Continues.
And we're still, the next generation is still going to take 60 grand out, no income, no credit at a 14%.
20% increase.
We need systemic change where we don't allow these types of loans to be written, and that there's clearer transparency, and schools aren't charging $3 grand a credit. For what? When county's $200 a credit, and it's the same education, because my teachers are going there at night working part-time. You can't even tell me it's a different education. It's the same stupid teacher. So like, you need systemic change. But I guess it brings us full circle, because we started the podcast with Erika, what did you do when you grew up, or when you were out of school? And I was a chemist. So like, do I regret paying $60,000 to be a chemist and then go into real estate? I don't know. Not really. I'm kind of proud of my journey.
Yeah. All right, as we start our descent here, I want to go into the new business venture that you recently found yourself getting into.
A part of.
And then I want to have people. I want you to tell us where people can find you at. So you stepped into this new space, kind of. It's real estate related, but you stepped into like the business,
the venue,
or another business.
Yeah.
Venture. Just give us, kind of a 60-second clip on what's that like, what got you into that, what made you want to do that.
Sure. So you don't even know this, right? No? Okay. So,
boss moves.
Trying. My first job, I was 12 and I worked in a mafia owned catering hall in Camden, and I was a dishwasher. So I've worked weddings almost my entire life, I guess, besides my title portion of my life. So by 16, I was the maitre d' in the wedding venue. By 17, I had moved to a different catering hall that I was managing. And then by the time it was college, I couldn't afford a car. So I was taking the train from FDU to Camden. It's 3 trains, by the way, goes through Trenton. Not fun. And I, at some point during college, actually opened up my own business where I was doing in-home catering for people like desperate housewives in Franklin Lakes, basically.
Desperate housewives.
Basically. So, weddings and events and catering was kind of like my past, and I feel that everything happens in seasons. And when I got into title, I never looked back, partly from some advice that I was given. They were like, Erika, the attorneys can't see you be their waitress as well. So whether or not that feels some type of way, they were kind of right. So I kind of left that whole life behind, and I went full into title. But weddings make a lot of money, and people spend a lot of money on weddings. And so how could I sort of marry that all in, no pun intended, to real estate? And I with 2 partners, we bought 15 acres in the Catskills. There's a vineyard and an orchard, and it's now a 7-bed, 4-bath house. There's a pond. There's a barn that was built in 1895. There's 2 ceremony sites we built, and people pay me for a full weekend wedding. So I probably make 4 or 5 times what I would just a normal Airbnb or VRBO rental, only because of the marketing angle. I'm marketing it as a wedding venue. I don't care what color your dress is. I don't care what food. I don't care. We're 420 friendly. Not that I don't care, but like, I'm not your wedding planner. I'm not picking out florists. I'm not. This is my piece of real estate. These are the terms of the rental agreement. This is what I expect for the 3 days. And, yeah, we've already had 2 weddings, and we've got 8 more booked, and it's just.
And you just opened, I believe.
We did. We had our grand opening a month ago. Yeah. Wow. And so I pay for leads. I pay for Wedding Wire and The Knot, which is pricey. It's like paying for Zillow. It's all the same, and it's all just how you market and position it. And is there a lot of startup right now? Sure. Half of my time has been talking to, prospective couples that are renting, but it's all with the means to getting somebody to take that position and sort of just run it so that it really is a real estate holding company, and it's me and my 2 partners hold the real estate, and it's just rented.
No, I love that for you because you work extremely hard, and
it's
cool to see the transition after knowing you, obviously, since I've been in the business, and seeing you in the title limelight, and then now venturing off into something that's a little bit different, which, me and John have, just talked about just different other business ventures that could happen in conjunction with real estate. So yes, I love that too. I'm here for it. Where can people find you at?
So the wedding venue is the Vista Manor. So we're the Vista Manor in Roxbury, New York, if you want to check that out. Me personally, Roxbury, New York.
Oh, New York.
Yeah, not New Jersey.
Okay.
But come visit us anyway.
Okay.
I haven't gone out to the Catskills since like the zoo.
Yeah, it's
beautiful. Is that
beautiful.
still there?
The Catskill Zoo,
the Catskill Animal Farm, I think it was called.
I don't even know. It's beautiful up there, though. It's a different world. I call it my little slice of heaven. And I'm a wino, so I'm out there like pruning wine grapes. It's like what I do on my weekends now. I know, it's kind of wild.
Okay, so that's the wedding venue, and then anything title related.
Yeah,
where can
so
people find
on
you?
Instagram I'm at Erika Baldino, or you could find me on titlequeen.com or kvnewjersey.com.
You have that?
Of course I have that.
Titlequeen.com.
Erica with a K.
Erika with a K. Yeah, I am the titlequeen.com. I know, because there's other people that pretend and call themselves, and that's just not true. I was the original, so I bought the handle.
Oh, I got a bunch of questions here. I forgot to ask.
I'm here for it.
1031.
Nah, we didn't even get to that. That's 2.0. We didn't even get
to
we didn't get to wire fraud.
No, Erica's going to be an in-house guest. We'll obviously be bringing her back as the trio anyway, considering the fact. But for this particular episode, obviously, thank you for taking the time.
You're very welcome.
Out, because we know you're running around like crazy. I know you're putting fires out and everything like that. Hopefully the rest of your closings throughout the rest of the year go extremely smooth, and
no divorces.
No fraud at the closing table. Hopefully no fraud at the closing tables. And yes, as always, Erika, thank you for taking the time. Without a doubt, this is Austin Smith, aka More Than an Agent, and John Does Real Estate with the Real Estate Blueprint podcast. Signing off.